My son's principal called me today because his father was having problems at school. I didn't think I needed his cell phone until I remembered, my son's trip to Kenya. If that didn't make much sense to you, don't worry, you're not having a medical emergency. That is just what happens when you run a Reddit post through Google Translate 100 times. You've probably seen this before, but just in case, when you drop a message in Google Translate and keep running it through different languages, what comes out the other end in English ends up totally messed up, and it gets a lot worse the more times you translate it. In these videos, we start out translating messages 10 times, then we jump to 25 times, then 50, then 100. And at the end of the video, I've got a message that was translated 1,000 times. We're going to be diving into TwoSentenceHorror and also a little bit of TwoSentenceComedy, which, if you're unfamiliar, it's just people trying to write stories that are either scary or funny in 2 sentences or less. By the way, the untranslated message from the beginning of the video read, "The principal of my son's school called me at work today to tell me my son pushed another kid while on a school excursion. I initially thought that this hardly warranted a phone call, until I remembered that my son's excursion was to the Grand Canyon." We're going to start off by translating the messages 10 times. A time traveler inadvertently changes history by introducing modern practices to medieval peasants. The first draft of Shakespeare's Hamlet began as "to eat or not to eat," and the revival was abbreviated to "The Shining." They actually said the time traveler kept accidentally changing history by introducing modern slang to medieval peasants. Shakespeare's original draft of Hamlet began as "to yeet or not to yeet," and the Renaissance was briefly called the Glow Up. Google Translate said, "I immediately grabbed my gun and shot my husband in the head while he was ordering a pepperoni pizza on the phone. I thank God that my husband lives in wheat because I can see that his body has changed to its original form. Oh yeah." What this guy actually said was, "I immediately drew my pistol and shot my wife point blank in the noggin after hearing her order a pepperoni pizza on the phone. I thank the gods for my wife's vegan lifestyle as I watched the shapeshifter's body distort back into its original form. I stared at the void and it stared back. From its dark depths emerged a subtle meow that started to remind me it was almost time for my floofy void's den. I looked at the bike and looked back. I looked at the bike and looked back." Which one do you think was the original? Actually, I do want you to try to guess which one's the translated one on this next one, because it could be either one. "The neighbors warned me that there was a pack of werewolves that migrated through the town in the spring, so they advised me to stay indoors at night. That night, they looked at me in disbelief as confronted the werewolf pack with a sack of tennis balls, tuckering them out with an hour game of fetch.
The neighbors warned me that a pack of wolves would come to town that spring and advised me to sleep at home. That night, the wolves couldn't believe it when I threw a bag of tennis balls and led them in an hour-long elimination game."
The translated one was the second one, if you couldn't tell. I'm glad to know you've seen Weezer but aren't interested in Minecraft. I'm not interested in Minecraft. I saw the wither, but was relieved when I realized I'm not in Minecraft. I am not in Minecraft. We're going to go from 10 translations to 25. "Be careful, a little salt helps the sea," the captain told his crew at this station. "There is sand," I said. They actually said, "Now be careful, that line of rock salt is the only thing keeping them out," the man said, welcoming my group into his refuge. "Sea salt," I clarified. "Sea salt keeps us out. The 11 holes are high frequency. Pop Man has 12 fervors. Every time 11 huffs fine. 12 huffs poop man come, Why don't you just take a little guess as to which one is translated? This is the untranslated post. The hardest part of hiring a director for this biopic was hiring Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't know of any actor better suited to this role than Daniel Day-Lewis. Now, the reason that one didn't make any sense was because that was the translated one. The hard part of getting the studio executives on board for the biopic was convincing them to hire Daniel Day-Lewis. As I explained to them, no other actor could be more suited for the role of Daniel Day-Lewis than Daniel Day-Lewis. We were so happy that the first message from space was, "Hey!" We spent 40 years constantly blasting signals into the cosmos before receiving the second part of that message. Google Translate interpreted that as, "We were very happy that the first news from space was good. This sign was on the air for 40 years before the second part of the letter arrived. OF. Tinder is completely useless. I don't have a single match. If I don't find another way to start a campfire tonight, I'll freeze to death." Google Translate thought that said, "Tinder is completely useless and has no competition. If I can't find anything else to do tonight, I'll start a fire." She said last time. We're stuck in a time loop, which really pisses me off because that's what she said last time. We're stuck in a time loop. Until then, we're stuck in space, he said, because it's fun. A little off topic, but how did this guy know that he was in the time loop? Because clearly the girl doesn't know. So how does he know? Did he do it? Is that what makes it horror? Is that the horror part of the 2 sentences? There are 2 balloons inside. Food place.
Inside of me are 2 wolves.
Yet I still have room for dessert. Believe it or not, the translated message was the first one, and it looks fake. It looks like I just wrote that in there, but I swear, here's me coming clean. I actually used a website called Hypertranslate to do this, and it really did spit out just the words food place. Anyway, after that, we're going to step it on up from 25 translations to 50 big ones. I said to my friend, "These fries are special."
Because I'm a foreigner.
He replied, scratching his chin and shaving his head. Evil Gamer 117's real message was, "Wow." I said to my new friend I just made, "These potato chips are out of this world."
That's because I am an alien.
He replied, and then his skin turned green and his head got real big. This is the translated message. The woman is worried that her son's hair will fall out. Headache! And Dingleberry Hand Pump's real message was, "My wife was visibly shaken as she combed through the infestation in our child's hair. She had that deer in the headlights look." Hello, I'd like to know the ice time, please. Hey, just wondering, like, what's an acceptable amount of lag in my mirror? The sign read, "Do not look away from the entity. It moves when you are not looking." This must be a joke. I thought after I ran my fingers across the Braille characters, Google Translate interpreted that as, "Do not look at the animal, otherwise you will die." I put my finger on the Braille and think, "That's great!" Leg humper. My toy poodle has been humping my leg relentlessly. If he keeps it up, I'm taking his batteries out. And in the wise words of Google Translate, a broken leg. Your work is always excellent, if you continue to take medication. I'm a psychic, and the family asked me if I could read the mind of their son who's been in a coma for quite some time. I found out that little Yahweh has created an entire world called Earth, and I'm unable to escape this world he lords over. Google poetically answered with, "Another family asked me to read their son's speech. I know that a new king has created a world called Needmar, and I cannot escape his world." Google Translate said, "An object." He responded to my offer and asked me what we were talking about. "I would like to see your answer in Spanish." "Once," she replied to my text, asking how many times she cheated on me. That's when I realized she was answering in Spanish. Once means 11 in Spanish. It's time to go from 50 to 100 translations. The doctor asked me to write a hate letter to save the relationship. 17 people have died so far. Not too bad. And the real message was, my therapist recommended I process emotions by writing letters to the people I hate and burning them afterwards. So far, I've set 17 people on fire, and she was actually right. Believe it or not, this is the translated message. Ali came out and took off his pants. "It might hurt," replied the Irishman. "I know it," with a floating apostrophe. The untranslated message is, an Irish guy walks into a bar with a tire in his pants. The bartender says, "It must be painful," and the Irish guy responds with, "It's driving me nuts." Oh. My girlfriend said she used to be Christian. Her name is Christina. Google thought that said, "My friends say I'm a Christian. Her name is Christina." People told me the year after I had a stroke and my dog died that it would be a better year. They were right because my dog didn't die again. Sundar Pichai thought that said, a year after the dog bite, the man says he feels terrible. My dog didn't die, I'm fine. Tom Brady Translate said, blue, 100, 8 feet. He said he kissed his son. I didn't know. I was laughing behind. I give up. What's 8 feet tall with gray skin and no face? I sighed at my child indulgently. I don't know, but it's walking up behind you. The translated twin of this message goes, after a few months in a psychiatric hospital, I realized it wasn't as bad as I thought. Unfortunately, nobody understands Hungary. For months I've tried to explain to everyone in the mental hospital that I'm not the gibberish-producing madman they all take me for. Unfortunately, none of them knows Hungarian. According to the comments on this one is based on a true story. It is about this guy called Andras Toma. He was a Hungarian army guy who got kidnapped by Soviet forces, and he got transferred to a mental hospital in Russia, and he stayed there for 53 years because he was unable to communicate with others due to his inability to speak Russian. The more you know. For my final wish, I asked the genie to give me the ability to speak to and understand all animals. I had to burn all the CDs of Whale Song I used to fall asleep. What they whispered was never meant to leave the depths. The big GT said, I believe that God gave me the ability to speak and understand all living beings. You can burn whale skin and live, but I don't want to lose.
The locals told me to be wary of the eyes that shine from the dark of the night, to never break eye contact, and to always do the opposite of what it says. As much as I wanted to heed their advice, the thing I'm looking at beyond the tree line just told me to stay inside my home.
Citizens must wear protective masks at night. Don't argue, keep your word.
I would love to hear your suggestions, but what I saw in the forest was so comforting.
My daughter was born with 2 legs. You must be right. The real message was, my daughter was born with only 2 legs, so it's only a matter of time before we will be able to mimic the humans completely. This final message is going to be translated not 1, not 2, but 1,000 times. The final untranslated message is, his tendency to slouch and otherwise be inconsistent with his height really ruined his viability to become a unit of standard measure. Everyone agreed that he was a good king, but a terrible ruler. That message translated 1,000 times is, it's hot outside. Enter the code and enter your product.